Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to our Friday night service, and a special welcome to Alma, and Wendy, and Jolene for all the wonderful music we will enjoy. So we're going to begin with two songs, and the first one is Am Yisrael Chai. The people of Israel shall live. If you have a prayer book, it's in the middle of page 642. To page 128, our second selection. Actually, bottom of page 129 are the words Lela Chamda Levy. Very easy words, Lela Chamda Levy, Chusana ve'al natitalem. So we come to the blessing over the Shabbat candles, and you will do this at home at your own leisure. But let's read together on 121, and then we'll sing the blessing together. Top of page 121. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, on our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu. Shel Shabbat. Amen. Let's read together. We're on 126, this beautiful poem. I begin with a prayer of gratitude on page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created, and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. So let's turn to the Psalms. We always begin on Friday night with Psalm 95. L'chuna ranana. Come, let us sing joyously to the Lord. On 130. In the English, bottom of the page. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. For let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings. In God's hand are the depths of the earth. The peaks of the mountains are God's. God's is the sea, God made it, and the land which God's hands fashioned. Come, let us bow down and kneel, bend the knee before Adonai, our Maker. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the flock in God's care. Oh, if you would but heed God's charge this day. Let's read together from Psalm 97, top of page 133. Adonai is sovereign. Let the earth exult, and the many islands rejoice. Dense clouds are around God. Righteousness and justice are the base of God's throne. O you who love Adonai, hate evil. God guards the lives of God's loyal ones, saving them from the hand of the wicked. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright. O you righteous, rejoice in Adonai, and acclaim God's holy name. Can read a portion of Psalm 29. We're on page 136. This is a psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders, Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Syrian like a young wild ox. So we turn to the beautiful melody of L'chadodi. We're on 138, and we generally sing verses 1 and 2, and then we'll all stand up if possible, singing the last verse. So we're going to jump over to page 144 in our Sidurim to the Chatzi Kaddish, which marks the conclusion, so to speak, of the preliminary prayers, the preliminary 6 Tehillim, the 6 Psalms that are part of the Kabbalat Shabbat service. And now the Chatzi Kaddish tells us that we're going into a new section of prayers which lead up to the Shema Yisrael. So let's all sing together, page 144. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabba Yamad ivrakrute yamlich malchute v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayedechon Beit Yisrael Bagala bagala u'bizman karib Imru Amen. Yesh Merava Mevorach Le'olam Me'amaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach Yitbar V'yitramam Yitnaseh V'yitagvar V'yitaleh V'yitalach Shemei Gudusha Brechu Lela mikol birchata v'shirata tushmechata v'nekemata damirat v'yama v'imru. Amen. We turn the page and continue with a call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Let's all sing together. Baruch Hu et Adonai Havorach, Baruch Adonai Havorach, Le'olam Va'ed. And we're reading together, we're on 148, the first blessing before the Shema, Mariv Aravim, God who welcomes in the night for all of us. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzebaot is your name. Ever living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Amariv Aravim. The second blessing, we're on page 150. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate in your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Together we sing Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Let's all be seated. We read together the words from Deuteronomy, the V'ahavta, which most of us know by heart. on page 154 in the Siddur. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shachpecha v'kumecha v'kshartam le'ot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot be'en enecha v'ktavtam al mizazot beitecha v'bisharecha l'man tizkaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. Emet. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand. Let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. So we turn to the beautiful words of Mi Chamocha. The Hebrew and the English are on page 158. We're reading together on 161. This is a poetic rendering of the Hashkivenu prayer, the prayer that asks God to shelter us in the shadow of your wings, to protect us from war and famine and distress, and to particularly to watch over us in the nighttime. Middle of 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haborei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. So this Shabbat evening we're going to sing V'shamru. Turn the page, we're on the top of 162 in our Siddurim. We're going to start that one again.
Let's start again.
ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, ועשו את השבת לתורתם. We turn the page in our prayer books. We come now to the 7 essential blessings of the Shabbat evening service, the Tefillah. Tefillah means prayer with a capital P. So let's, if you're able, stand up as you sing these blessings with us, or else stay comfortable in your chairs. We're on page 164. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agiti latecha. Adonai, open up my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah, El Hayom, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'znocher Chasdei Avot B'imahot, U'mibigula L'bnei Bneihem, L'man Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav le'Hoshia. Mechakel chayim b'chesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somek noflim v'rofem cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayeh emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha yal bivurot, Umidom elach, Melech meimid, Umechayeh, Umasmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah ha'chiyot ha'kol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh ha'kol. Let's read together, middle of 171, the third blessing, this beautiful poem. Where might I go to find you, exalted, hidden one? Yet where would I not go to find you, ever-present, eternal one? My heart cries out to you, please draw near to me. The moment I reach out for you, I find you reaching in for me. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated if you're standing, or you can continue standing if you wish for the rest of the blessings. Let's read together on page 173, the fourth blessing. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. The Ritzei in the English. Let's read from page 175. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotcha levadecha yira na'avot. And the blessing of thanksgiving, you'll find on page 176. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our trust in you. Towards the bottom of the page. For all these things, sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, l'cha na'eh lehodot. So we'll enjoy this beautiful music for the seventh blessing for Shalom Rav, page 178. We'll take a pause for a moment or two and have the time to think of our own prayers and meditations on this Shabbat. So this Shabbat is the beginning of a new book in the Torah, the fourth book, namely Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, as it is known in English and in Latin. And by the way, according to the Hebrew calendar, we always begin reading the book of Numbers on the Sabbath just before the great holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot, the festival, will begin this coming Thursday night and all day Friday and all day Shabbat. As you know, Shavuot is for us to celebrate the giving of the Torah, God's revelation on Mount Sinai to the people. But we'll get to that next week. So the Midbar in the desert, it was originally referred to by the rabbis as Sefer HaPikudim, the book of accounting, because the opening chapter or two is all about a census. Whenever there's a new step in the life and the journey of the Jewish people, if you read Torah, you'll see that a census taking is taken. Why do we need a census at the beginning of this book? Well, simply put, because Moses and the leaders needed to know how many men 20 years old and above were ready and able to be conscripted into military service if needed. So according to the verses in Torah, there were over 603,000 men in the desert. Imagine all of those people, their families, their children, plus the Erev Rav, the non-Jews who left with the Israelites when they came out of Egypt. Can you imagine trekking through the desert with probably 1 million or more like 2 million people at this time? It's hard to imagine. The desert conditions were extraordinarily hazardous, especially for a people who had just recently been liberated. We were used to the comforts, so to speak, of Egypt. At least there we knew we had a place to shelter us, and we knew we had 3 square meals a day. In the desert, they were plagued with scorpions and spiders and terrible heat stroke, cold desert winds at nighttime, fierce, hostile conditions. I often wonder, how did the Israelites, whether they were 100,000 or 1 million people, how did they survive all those years in the desert? The Midrash tells us that the reason we survived was that God was always with us. God was protecting us. There were no restaurants. We don't have any restaurants open today anyway, but in those days they didn't have restaurants for 39 and a half years. There were no laundromats. There were no way stations or oases. Midrash says God protected the Israelites with food, with clean clothes, with clean water, all of the necessities. And imagine getting sick in the desert. How did they survive with illness in the desert? All of this came because God spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai. That's really how the story of Bamidbar starts, because most of the book of Numbers is all about our travels. The travels begin in the 2nd year after we have left Egypt, and they conclude, it goes all the way through this book up to Deuteronomy. When we get to Deuteronomy, we're in the 39th year, close to the Promised Land. God's most dramatic self-revelation is heard by the entire people in the desert. By the way, nobody knows exactly where Mount Sinai is. I mean, you can look on a map, you can look at an atlas, and you'll see designation Jebel Musa in Arabic or Har Sinai in Hebrew, but no one is quite sure, based on history and archaeology, exactly which mountain was Mount Sinai, because the tradition says we're not supposed to worship a place, a physical thing, a rock, a bunch of stones. We're supposed to think about the importance of being out there in the midst of this difficult environment and suddenly hearing the words of God. What does it mean to hear the words of God? Some people think that it's impossible to hear the words of God. Let me give you an example of just the opposite. In the 1800s, one of the greatest preachers in the United States was a minister named Harry Emerson Fosdick. celebrated throughout the country. His sermons were published in all the newspapers. He traveled by locomotive from here, city to city, preaching the gospel to the Christian community, and had many rabbinic friends as well. But he tells in his own autobiography that long before he became assured or solid in his relationship with the divine, he says the following, because he had a nervous breakdown at about age 20. He said, "It was the most terrifying wilderness experience I ever traveled through. I dreadfully wanted to kill myself, but instead I made some of the most vital discoveries in my life." By the way, he wrote a little book called The Meaning of Prayer after he recovered from that experience, so later in his 20s. And he said that in the midst of his grief and his sadness and his mourning, he found God in the desert. Why is it, he said, that some of life's most revealing moments, most revealing insights come when we're so far down in the depths of despair? And he writes more and more about this whole experience, but what I'm trying to suggest is sometimes we do gather incredible insights in the moment of sadness or depression or self-consternation, self-examination. God is there in the desert. That's what I'm really trying to say about this Torah portion. Wherever we may be in our own lives, God is in the wilderness. Some people actually listen and hear the word of God, and some people don't. Some people, just ask any rabbi or minister you may know, and they will tell you that there are people who come to us and say, such and such, some horrible calamity happened to me, to my mother, to my sister's child, and so forth. Where was God? What happened? Why did God leave us? Why did God abandon us? Why did these dreadful moments happen to our family? We've all heard those words from various people. And sometimes we have to think about that in relationship to the Holocaust, because there are many who said God was not there for us in the desert, in the horror of the Holocaust. A wonderful writer named Reed Brenner wrote a book about doubts, dealing with faith and doubt in the Holocaust, and he pointed out in his book that so many people who came to him, with whom he had interviews, said to him, the reason I'm a believer, the reason I'm still Jewish today, is because of what I went through in the Holocaust, because I saw how desperately, how strongly, how with passion, Jews in the camps, in the ghettos, in all kinds of extreme situations, managed to hold on to their faith, even tried to maintain the mitzvot. Even in the camps in Theresienstadt and Auschwitz, people figured out a way to make matzah. And there were those who memorized the prayer book and could recite the Passover Haggadah for those who were able and strong enough to hear the words. So Dr. Brenner says, it is precisely the desert of that extreme experience that helped him reaffirm his faith. And he reminds us that all of us go through difficult periods, all of us question, all of us have doubts, but still the astonishing paradox is we can find God during those difficult moments. I think the desert experience of the Israelites was a cauldron. It was a furnace through which we became a strong, vital future people. And it's no coincidence that in other religious traditions, in Christianity and in Islam, that there are parables and great stories about the desert experience for their leaders as well. When we go through our own personal desert, we find the powers of fortitude and patience and endurance. We put aside our illusion of invulnerability. We put aside the illusion that we are self-sufficient, that we can do anything and everything we want to do. Just think of all the people you've talked to in the last 2 months who said, oh my gosh, how did this happen to us? How is it that we're suffering from such a virus and that my money market fund dropped from 1.5 million to 800,000? Who did this to us? Who is to blame? However you and I interpret those desert experiences, and to me those are very minor. The point is, we have to listen to the words of God. That's what the Torah is saying to us. God speaks to us in the good days, and God actually, the voice of God is there echoing in our ears, even during the dark days. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to sing Misha Berach and think of all of our friends and loved ones and fellow Americans around the country in need of strength and healing and uplifting. The Misha Berach you'll find on page 371 in our prayer book. And before we sing together, let's think of our own congregants who are recovering. We have special blessing for Lynn Kelly, Reggie Klein, Barb Lamont, and Barb's dear cousin Jackie, Flo Vinnick, Joan Scheinberg, and all of us who are wrestling with these difficult times. We lift our voices up and ask God to give us strength. We're on 371. Before we turn to the concluding prayers, next Shabbat, as I said, is also the holiday of Shavuot. So we will have a special Shabbat service, and our cantor Ephraim Herrera, will be singing with us, along with music from Wendy and Alma and Jolene. So please join us and make sure you celebrate Shavuot. It's one of the three great pilgrim festivals of the year, and it's the conclusion, or it's the affirmation of the covenant and the giving of Torah to the Jewish people. We will join you together for next Friday for Shavuot and Shabbat. Our closing prayers, the Aleinu, is on page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tein l'altzeh reishit, shelo asasnu kegoyei ha'atzon, v'lo samanu b'mishmechot adama, shelo samnu k'yukarem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu U'mishakavim u'modim Mipnei melech Malchei Amlakim let's read this poem before we come to the Kaddish prayer. We're on the bottom of 595. These words were composed by Hannah Senesh, who was, as you know, famous partisan fighter, freedom fighter during the World War II, and was killed at the end of her teenage years. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it was with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. On this Shabbat of Bimidbar, with love and devotion, we now recall the following yard sites. Rosalie Davidson, mother of Abigail Davidson. Bonnie Miller, partner of Clark Fountain. Stephanie Murray, friend of Sonny Rappaport. And Rebecca Waxlander, mother of Phyllis Kapp. Please join me and we'll find the words of the Kaddish on page 598. Page 598. If you're able, please stand for the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah v'alma divrach chirutei v'amlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael b'agala b'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha Richu, Lela mikol virchata v'shirata, tush v'chata v'nechamata, damiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba mishemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mrama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of light and life bring us peace, bring us harmony, bring that to the people of Israel, to the land of Israel, and to all good peoples throughout the world. Amen. Oseh shalom b'rama, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael. Let's sing the Kiddush together. The words you'll find on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho v'yahava ratzon inkilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techilah l'mikra'e kodesh, techel etziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, yatanu kidasha, mikol amim, v'shabbat kadshecha, v'yava u'ratzon, inkaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Let's sing together the Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. A good Sabbath to everyone.